Hello and welcome. This is a special presentation of Stage Explorations, and we are here today to talk about theater and our production of Rule My World. So, hello, Joey.
Hello, Carol.
How you doing, boo?
I am good. How about yourself?
I'm doing amazing. So, I have a few questions for you.
Hit me. Actually, I got a couple for you.
Okay, well, maybe we can do like an exchange kind of a thing.
I like it.
All right, let's do it. We're not going to flip a coin. I'm just going to start.
You go.
Okay, so when did you first fall in love with musicals, with music and music theater?
Well, the first time I ever heard the Phantom of the Opera, I came late. I didn't start theater till really late. So the first time I heard the Phantom of the Opera, it was the gavel. So, blah, 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 and it went into this like whole, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. Because remember, it was kind of rock and roll too. I was a rock and roll singer. Oh, yeah. And so I had been really cut off to any other sort of medium. It was all rock. And it's funny, Victor Chan. Yeah. Victor Chan was the one who pulled me aside. He goes, Joe, come here. come here.
He had to school you.
He schooled me. He showed me all these great musicals and all these great singers with the tenors with the super high notes. I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I love this. And that's what started it. And then next thing I'm doing theater, auditioning, I came so late, and I've always felt like I was catching up. But man,
yeah, but you've been running. It's like you've been doing a marathon.
I hit the ground running.
So were you in rock and roll bands before then?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so what was your band?
Well, my first band was Zoe Oleander.
What does that even mean?
It was just one of those whimsical kind of, oh yeah, man, wow, rock and roll. And I've always been able to do the theater, and I've always been able to do the rock and roll, and I can separate them. A lot of people can't really separate the two because they have to be like one. And I understand that to get to a certain level of being a professional, you really have to eat it, drink it, and sleep. You have to do that. Mm-hmm. But I think I've been fortunate enough to sort of do them both, and really concentrate on musical theater, and then concentrate on the band. I've had that opportunity. So it's really worked out for me because it's made me also flexible. So I'm flexible to do any sort of genre. So if you put a genre on me, I'm not going to go, oh, I can't do that. I can't. I'm like, oh yeah, let's do it. So. Yeah.
But I want to keep asking questions.
Go ahead. I have answers.
But you're also classically trained because you sing with the opera.
Yes.
So that's like a huge. What kind of switch is that for you?
That's a completely different approach. Mm-hmm. So the classical, really, I listened to it, and I started mimicking it. Right? I just started mimicking it, and then I went to an audition. One time, and I was mimicking singing opera, and I got cast as the.
No.
I swear. And you want to know something? That particular piece that I did, I toured it all over the world. I got to go.
Is that the three tenors, or
No,
is that something else?
That was something else. But we got to do it in Sydney Opera House, Carnegie Hall, all these great places, and the Walt Disney Concert Hall. I mean, all the great. I'm faking it. I faked it. But
that doesn't sound like faking to me. That sounds like the real deal in training.
No, and that's legitimate. I think for any singer, no matter what you do and whatever you get into, getting cast and doing that was fantastic. But I spent years and years and years and years of practicing singing.
So did the training for the classical come after or before that stint? So you basically had to go back and kind of reverse engineer it.
I did everything backwards. But again, because I was so flexible, I sort of understood the concept, and I actually talked to one of the big opera stars in Europe when I was singing in Greece, and he basically told me, if you want to be an opera, a draw, you have to eat it, you have to drink it, you have to sleep. He says, I write poetry about opera, I paint about opera, I do all that. And I thought, well, that's great. So give me a voice lesson. And he goes, okay, I'll give you a voice lesson. So I got up and I give this great, and he goes, no. You like the women, you like the men. I go, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? I go, you're insulting me? Okay, fine. So, I'm consider myself a first tenor. And he goes, no. And I go, okay, if you're so good, you do it. And this guy opened his mouth, and it was literally, you've seen those cartoons where they're holding on and the feet are in the air? Yeah. And I go, oh, okay, that's great, that's great. He blew me out the water. Sure. But I go, but you can't sing Led Zeppelin.
And everyone has their cross
That's
to
right,
bear.
that's right. And so how about you? I want to know, how did you get into musical theater?
How did I get into musical theater? Which is weird because I was always told I couldn't sing growing up.
What?
Yes. So I've been running to catch up too because I didn't start my training really until my 20s. I took a couple of lessons, like guitar lessons and singing when I was a teenager, but I would always quit. You know, my mom was like, well, if it's too hard, just quit. So she was definitely not a stage mother. She's still trying to talk me out of being a performer. I think she's come around now. So I would go to these auditions and for acting, and maybe the character sang, and so they'd say, okay, we'll just sing like a gospel song, because, you know, you're black, you sing gospel, right?
Exactly.
And I'm like, no. So I was leaving these auditions going, okay, this is the deal. I moved up here to LA, basically ran away with $50 in my suitcase, and people want me to sing. I better learn how to sing. So I started I studied classical. In college, I had an Italian woman who was raised by French nuns who would scream at me whenever I would hit a wrong note. She'd go, no, that is not bel canto. Huh? You listen to this Michael Jackson and Tina Turner. You don't come to me. We want bel canto. I'm like, oh my God, help me. But I'm glad I had it because I had such tremendous fear of it, and I just had to get over it. And I eventually found some good teachers, and I feel like I sang just enough to get away with it. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So that's kind of how it started. And my first musical professional was Little Shop of Horrors at the San Diego Rep when I was in college.
Really?
Yeah, and it was my first time also working around working actors. And I thought, oh my gosh, these people make a living. I got to figure out what they do. So I just bugged every equity actor in the company. So what'd you do? Where'd you train? Where'd you go? How'd you do this? Finally, this one actress named Lita Gaithers sat me down and said, okay, so there's this training program in LA at the Music Center run by this man named Paul Gleason. They have an intensive musical theater program. You go and you do that, and you will get some work. So I was like, okay. So I go and do the audition, and I'm still in college by the time I'm going to this private university that's very expensive, and I have this full scholarship. And so I go up and I audition for this thing, and I get in, and the guy says, well, congrats, we'd like to offer you a spot in the program. And he goes, and it starts in 2 weeks. And I was like, I'm still in college and I'm living at home and my parents aren't going to like this. I'm thinking this. I'm like, okay, I'll see you. So I go home and I announce to my parents I'm dropping out of college to go study musical theater in LA. And that was not pretty. My mom basically said, well, if you go, you don't get any support from us. So I was like, okay. So I had $50 in my bank account. My dad gave me the car. And I came up, and so that's kind of how I started. And I did their workshop. I delivered sandwiches and slept on the floor of one of the castmates. And then I did this. They had some casting showcase they did at the end of it, and casting director came and saw me and set up an audition for me for a professional production of Little Shop at Horrors at La Mirada. And I got in, and I got cast, and I got my equity card. First show.
Wow. First show?
First show in LA, I got my equity card. So that's so happy accidents.
Oh man. So let me ask you.
Okay.
You started, how many have you done? How many musicals have you done, would you say, in your career?
I haven't even counted. I don't know. Okay, so if I'm doing an average, I would average about 3 shows a year. Not all of them musicals, so maybe let's say I do 1 musical a year, just even though it's probably more. And I've been working for over, how old am I now?
21.
I don't care. If I've done, and I've been working for 30 years, let's say 28 years, and 3 shows a year. Does anyone do math? Who's good at math? 28 and 100? Over 100.
Over 100
maybe.
musicals?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe not quite. Maybe, I don't know. Close. If my math is off.
So, but you've got...
I've got a lot of musicals. No, it can't be 100. I haven't even counted.
That's crazy.
Let's see if we do one. No. Okay, let's say if I do one musical a year and it's 30 years, maybe at least 30.
At least 30?
At least. And that would be including like workshops and readings.
Well, yeah, of course. That all
'cause,
counts.
you know.
That all counts.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess I sing a little. enough to pass. Some shows barely passing. I don't know. They just keep hiring me. So.
Was there any one of those musicals in particular that really tested you, that really challenged you? Mm-hmm. Which one was that? Which one?
Carolina Change. It's like the Medea of musicals. Have you ever seen it?
No.
Tony Kushner, who wrote Angels in America, and Ginny Tesori, who wrote Violet. She's well known for that. And it was basically Tony's experience of growing up in the South, Jewish family in the South, and having a black maid, and it's loosely based on his experience as a child, and it's pretty much an opera. It's a sung-through piece.
Wow.
So in little vignettes, and it's like 2.5 hours of solid singing. So and pretty much on stage constantly. So I trained. Zephyr Quinn Hollis was my teacher at the time. I started years ago because when I was doing Mamma Mia in Vegas, I got a call because Tanya Pinkins, who was doing it on Broadway, was having vocal issues, so they were looking for a replacement. So they overnighted me all this music.
Oh, wow.
And I tried to find a piano player to play it because I couldn't find a pianist to play it. They looked at it and they went, "We don't know what this is." And there weren't any recordings of it.
Wow.
So I'm sitting with, a friend of mine came by and he was plunking through it and he was like, "Wow, this is a lot." So I was having some vocal issues at the time because it's demanding and you just have to be like a singer. And I called my agent and I said, "I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready." But then I saw it on the Tonys and then I listened to the recordings and I thought, "Oh my God, this is epic. There's nothing like this." So I started working on it kind of peripherally, and then I finally had the chance to audition for it probably about 7 years ago, and I'm like, okay, I'm going in, I'm ready for it. And then I worked with my voice teacher, Zephyr Quinn Hollis, who's classically based, and just to get my voice back in shape. And he worked with me during the time, so instead of losing my voice actually got stronger. Which was crazy because that's the first time that ever happened. But in the daytime, I wouldn't talk. I'd keep my voice wrapped. I had a little whiteboard. I'd write out stuff on. So that was the most challenging.
You got to do that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. All right. My turn.
Okay.
Why is theater and why are musicals important to go see, and why are they important to you?
I think it's because it's social commentary. I think with stage musicals, it's a vehicle to sort of push the agenda forward. Granted, it's all entertainment, but for the playwright who has a vision, and if that vision is to maybe advance a cause, no better way than through song and dance.
What is it about music, do you think, that affects people the way that it does?
I think just down to the nuts and bolts of it, I think there's certain chords that you hit, and you combine that with a certain phrase or a certain mood, and it's the resonation, it's the reverberation. There's something about it that reverberates, that resonates inside of us, that if you're, that's like a certain moment that just kind of captures that moment that you're trying to get across, and it gets across so deeply because it's enforced by whatever that chord is in the music, combined with that, whatever that line is, if it's a high note or if it's a low note or just some part where it just builds, and it can bring you to tears. I mean, it can literally bring you to tears.
Just the music itself and the composition.
Yeah, absolutely, so important.
I think there have been experiments and scientists and neurologists who are studying the effect that music and vibration and sound has on just the physical body and our emotional states too. For me, it's a place that can hold a lot of emotion.
Right.
For me, it's like a safe place to put your emotional life, or to have the experience of emotion through song. It's kind of a release in some way, and something that that many people, I think, can relate to.
Yeah.
Would they call it it's so cliche, the universal language, but it really is. I mean,
it is.
I think it's really interesting that it affects us that way.
I think when I think about stage musicals, it goes. It's not necessarily the whole arc of the show. It's moments. It's the moments that really resonate inside of me. It's those wherever the music, because the music kind of just flows and it leads you to some place, and it gets you to this certain spot, and then when you get to that spot, for me, it's those moments that it just seems like, it just feels like it echoes in me. It's like that. It just echoes, and those are the things that keep me coming back, that want me to listen to it and look for it in other musicals too, to look for that feeling.
What other musicals are you seeing that type of work in, when you were talking about pushing a certain agenda, or what's important to you when you see art or you see a show?
Well, I'll go back to my very first experience. My very first experience, I saw, it was Les Mis off of the first Broadway tour, and there were certain ways that the songs would just weave in, and then it was certain moments. It was just those certain moments that man. Not only did it make me emote the emotion, but it set me up. It's the whole thing set me up for the end. And by the time I got to the end, I was in tears. No, I'm not I wasn't a crier at that time. I'm a little bit more sensitive now, but in that time I was young and macho, and I used to play football, and I'm late to this. I wasn't into the theater. I wasn't into that. And by the oh my God, by the end of Les Mis, I was crying. I was trying to hide it. Blubbering. I was trying to hide it. I was like, oh my gosh. You want to know something? Honestly, I think too, one of the great things about Rule My World is Rule My World has those moments as well. There are those moments that, and that's what I love about it. That's what I love about Rule My World, is that it sets you up, same way, sets you up, and then.
What did you think when you first heard it, or I should say, was there any particular moment that stood out for you in the experience of it?
I think I have a pretty, because I've been doing, I've been in bands and writing songs and all that for years. So I think I got a pretty good ear for when I hear something on the radio, like if it's brand new, I'll know if it's going to be good. There's just something I'm like, oh yeah, that's going to probably be pretty good. The thing about Rule My World was, from the beginning, from the very beginning, I thought, wow, this is really good. And it always sort of is in the back of my mind. And just like I always tell you, occasionally I'll find those old the demo CDs, and I'll go, oh, I pop it in, and next thing you know, my car has a CD player, so next thing,
CD players.
Yes, CD player. So next thing you know, it's in, and I'm listening for 2 weeks. I'm listening to it 2 weeks straight, just listening to it, like as if I bought an album and put the album in and was listening to it. To me, that says a lot.
That's cool.
That says a lot.
That's
so.
Cool.
Do you ever get a chance to just listen to it?
Yeah, every once in a while I'll pull it out and I'm like, oh, this is really good. Why aren't I doing anything with this? What is happening? What's wrong? What's happening? So, do you remember the process of us being in the studio and meeting Allan? What did you think of Allan when you first met him? Allan is the composer.
I thought, Allan's. Oh yeah, Allan is from another planet, man. Yeah. He's from another planet. And it's interesting. He's super cool. Because some musicians that are that good can be uptight. Not at all. Super cool. Even when I was messing up his music, because you remember he was in there with the piano. Remember he was in there with the piano. That's not right, yeah. So
he's disturbed about something. Like, oh, man, I don't know. Or he'll just laugh at it. He's like, oh yeah, no, that wasn't it. Go back.
Yeah, no, it was. No, but Allan's a super cool guy, and his daughter actually was in the cast of The Grinch with me when she was just a little kid. How about this? Tell me about the character in your eyes. Tell me about Antonio.
General Antonio, is a war hero. In our show, he has saved basically the nation from invasion and from collapse. He was a hero in the last great war. He's not a citizen CEO Caesar has failed to grant him his citizenship. He's an incredibly loyal man. He's loyal to his cause. He's loyal to the people who's fought with. He and Enobarbus, or his best friends, have basically saved each other's lives time and time again, so they're brothers. He's a married man. He's fallen in love with Cleopatra. He's completely infatuated with her. He's just come back from a campaign that he doesn't necessarily believe in, but he's loyal to the cause because he's waiting for Caesar to grant him his citizenship. So this is kind of his way of rebelling against Caesar by hanging out with this very charismatic woman. She's very powerful. She's gorgeous. She's life-changing. She's galvanized something in him that he's never felt before.
And she's strong.
And she's a strong woman. And she challenges him because he's not used to being challenged that way. They're equals. In Shakespeare's world, though, women usually marry down. So she's probably more powerful than he is. But, they're both very powerful characters, and he likes that. He digs that about her. So, but he's also kind of just past his prime.
Yep.
So he's struggling with that. He's also struggling with addiction. So there are questions of what is addiction, how does that affect and inform relationships and behavior, and it's ultimately, something that unravels this relationship. So it's complex. He's loyal to his cause, but he's conflicted because what he's fighting for is directly affecting the community that Cleopatra is in. He's responsible for bringing these drugs into the community, which is killing people. So that's a little insight into his character. So he does decide, when he finds that his wife has died while he's been having this affair, he feels really crappy, and so he decides to go back and make amends and try to clean up his act. And then Caesar gives him the opportunity to prove his loyalty, and by doing so, if he proves his loyalty, then he'll be made a full citizen. So that's the name of that tune.
I like it.
That's how I see it right now.
That's great.
When we get in performance, you can tell me what you think. What has been your impression of General Antonio?
I've always sort of taken that there's almost a switch. Like, he could be cold-blooded killer, and then he switches it off. And I think what happens with Cleopatra is that I think she got him when he had that switch off. And he's so, it's like you said, he has a problem with addiction. So this very much falls right in line with what he is all about, because he's got that addictive personality, and this is just right up his alley. I mean, this is the ultimate. I mean, this is the ultimate addiction. Wow.
This is what I love so much about people, other people interpreting your work, because they know so much more than you do.
Well, I don't know about that, but.
Well, no, I mean, it is because you can only live. I mean, I think great writers do that, and I admire them so much, but to try to really inhabit a character as you're trying to give voice and life and breath to it. And that's why, I think it's important to surround yourself with wonderful, intelligent artists that help you shape and mold and create this world for us to inhabit. If you're going to ask an audience to be with you for 2 hours or whatever in a little black box of a space to live in a show, you better be in it.
That's right.
So that's cool. I love your answer to that.
What else I love about Antonio too is his voice, his actual physical voice, because he has he and Enobarbus have, because they're like brothers, so they have very similar voices, but they have these powerful. I mean, if you think about
both high rock tenors.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So it's like the launching pad for these really cool, wonderful, intimate spots that we have. But then it just goes, and it's
meteoric. Yeah. Tell me, you were telling me something about the tenor duet, which I didn't know before. Didn't realize.
Well, I mean, you have it's so unique in Rule My World. Actually, I was talking to Victor Chan about this. Yeah. It's a tenor one duet. Where do you have a tenor one duet with just the two tenors conveying the song? I mean, I mean, it's
I did not know
no,
that.
it's a rare
That's cool.
bird. Let me tell you, it's a rare bird, and it's not just tenor. It's like first tenor, super tenor. You better get a good night's sleep and do the whiteboard, because you know what? You can't show up. You can't show up not rested. I mean, this is like the level of difficulty is, I mean, all the way to 10. But that's the best part of it. That's the best part of it, because you have these two characters that are so close, and the way the music and the way the voices dance together, it's just.
That's cool.
It's a great moment.
It's also great to hear the two of you sing that. And Victor Chan is also a dear friend of both of us.
Yes.
And I met you two when we were doing Celebration of the
Celebrate the
Lizard,
Lizard,
which was
yes.
all Jim Morrison's poetry and the Doors music, and an apocalyptic,
That's right.
strange kind of surreal. And I just remember hearing the two of you sing in that show, going, "Wow, I've never heard that before."
Carol, and one of the things about Celebration of the Lizard I got to laugh at, some of our costumes were.
You should not put actors in primary colors for a post-apocalyptic type of reality in any situation. It just doesn't work. Red and blue, and that was painful. We won't even talk about my costume now.
I was just gonna say,
I was literally wearing just a bullet bra. A bra just
you had a bullet
like a
bra.
bandero.
You had a bullet bra. What are those things that come across for the?
It was
I felt
really
like
tenuous there.
I thought it was French can-can. I really did.
It was not a flattering look, I guess, for someone, but not in my world.
Well, okay.
Okay, we have more questions here
Yes,
because
oh,
we're
yes.
going to be here all day. They keep you all made a mistake when you gave us some mics. Okay, here we go. Is it my turn or your turn?
It's my turn.
Okay, go ahead.
So, tell us about the music in Rule My World.
Well, the music I was talking earlier in the interview of Rule My World is I wanted it to reflect the different societies that we have, or the different groups that people live in. And I also wanted it to mirror, to harken back to the original source material. In Shakespeare's text, the Egyptians spoke in free verse. The Romans was all very metered. Everything was very linear, very tight and succinct. Then you had the minor characters that spoke completely differently, and I saw it was kind of a modern day version of code switching. When you're with your family, you're laid back, and then when you're at work, you try to clean up everything.
Right.
So in Club Osiris, where Cleopatra's world is, I wanted the musical language to reflect their particular culture, and ways of being. So I've got spoken word, I've got R&B, and hip hop. Antonio also has his own word. I mean, he's got a Latin background and culture, so I wanted that to be reflected in the language and in the music. When we moved to New Rome Inc., because now the capital is a corporation and Caesar's the CEO, I use techno music. So I wanted the conveyance of more of this linear, structured, clinical, kind of more calculated world that reflected just the technology of the world that he was living in. And then we have some of the minor characters like Charmaine and Iris, and Alex or Alexis, who's the DJ. When they're out on Venice Beach, they have kind of more of a poppy, sound that's brighter and more fun and lighter. So
it's one of my favorite moments.
It's a fun moment where they're dealing with the fortune teller. And they're like, "Hey, what's up? Am I gonna get love? Am I gonna be famous? What's the deal? We want to embark on our solo careers. We tired of being back half of Cleopatra." So I wanted that world to come alive. So you have these distinct, the music. Is a character as well, the musical motifs of the characters to introduce us to the world psychologically, and also, to create the ambiance. And then as the show progresses, some of these worlds overlap. The press conference at the top of Act 2, where Caesar is needing to deal with the public, and he's trying to really control the narrative, but the press is challenging him on that. So funny how some things relate in real life. Anyway.
I'm not going to say anything.
I'm just skipping over that. Take it for what you will. So that's, I really wanted to stay conscious of the music. And also I tried to do research on the types of music that was happening in Shakespeare's time, and also the mention of the musical styles of Egypt and ancient Egyptian music, and whether there were cymbals or types of stringed instruments. I wanted them to be reflected in a modern way. I'm also thinking of integrating certain ballads and songs from the Renaissance of Shakespeare's time, and I want to loop those in, that the DJ sometimes drops into his mix, and have some of these choral arrangements that are underscoring it, just as kind of a nod to the bard, and because I have this one narrator, Alex, who talks about history being a loop. So whether that's a musical loop or an actual way of this history repeating itself, what are these kind of thematic themes that are coming up that we as human beings are still dealing with? So that's the intention anyway. How that is materialized, we shall,
Well, the way it's packaged so far, love it. So let me just follow up with that. In my opinion, just musically, the vocals seem, you'd have to have training. You can't walk into this. You can't walk into this music. This is not. I don't think this is going to be one of those Reader's Digest versions that high schools are going to be doing. Just based on the fact that the level of difficulty in just the singing is tremendous. Yep. And so elaborate a little bit on that.
I just put one note in front of the other.
I mean, did you have anything in particular in mind, the vision?
It's funny, when I was when I first approached Allan, the composer, about it, my biggest inspiration in musicals was Jesus Christ Superstar, because of the classical foundation, but it's still got that rock score, and that's timeless to me. And I wanted something similar with this, because the world needed to be. It's called Rule My World. Right. So it needed to be big, but it needed to have a foundation and a classical structure, because I imagined it as an opera, as a sing-through. Even though there's story and dialogue and text, everything is still underscored. Music drives it. The story, the impetus has to drive it. So I knew that it didn't really dawn on me until I got you guys in the studio for that first demo, and then I heard it, because I just had to put down or sing to Allan what was in my head, and that's just how I heard them. And I knew that I needed tenor. And it's funny, because most all of the guys are tenors.
Yes.
I mean, Caesar and Lepidus are, high voices, even higher than some of the stuff you and Victor are singing.
That's right.
And then, but Cleopatra has the low voice.
That's what, to me, that's what's brilliant. To me,
that's thank you. I will take that.
I love it.
And then the drug runners, the Jamaican gun runners, actually, Menas and Pompey, and then the backup singers are mezzos or middle. So everyone has to be on their game. It's a very tight show, but the show, I think it demanded that. That was just part of the storytelling. All of these people are bigger than life, and the music needed to reflect that.
Well, like you said, it's got to be big.
It's big. It's like, go big or just go home.
Well, I got to tell you something funny.
Okay.
I remember when you first sent me the song Eros. And I'm like, wait a second. Is this note right? Oh, I guess it is right. I better
gird your loins.
Yeah.
Get ready. But it's a beautiful song.
Gorgeous.
I mean, he's
gorgeous
completely collapsed, and it's beautiful poetry, because Shakespeare has Antonio basically he's been abandoned by everyone. And you know how you look at clouds and you imagine all these different shapes. So he's looking at these clouds and he's saying they come together and then they create these images, and now it's something else, and then it disappears. And he's saying, this is what's happening to me. He doesn't know who he is. He's completely dismembered. He's shattered. Shattered in that moment. And so there was just something about that image, and the personification. There's a character named Eros, but in the story, he's a figment of Antonio's imagination who's haunting him, basically. So he's having this conversation with Eros, like, look at this cloud. Do you see that cloud shaped like a dragon? He roars across the sky. Now he's a lion bearing down. He shifts again. I am amazed, staring into space. Tell me, my friend, how did I get to this place? So that's, oh wait, that's my lyric. So there was just something about that was just, in Shakespeare's language, that was so haunting and beautiful. I was like, how do I put that together in a poetic form that's contemporary, that reflects that emotional moment for Antonio? And I can't wait to hear you sing it again live.
Oh, I can't wait to do it either. I'm so excited.
So let's move on. Yes. Oh my gosh, they're going to have us here all day. What do you want the audience to get out of Rule My World?
You know, I would like for the audience to walk out like I did at Les Mis.
Oh, that's cool.
I want them to walk out and really not have much to say. I want them to think about what they just saw. I want it to resonate in their hearts, what they just saw and what they just heard. I think that there are definitely, the way this story unravels, I think that it's just going to be a punch in the gut at the end. You know, and I want them to walk out and feel like they've just been punched in the gut. That's what I liked, and also to take into consideration how similar things are now from this world that you've created, this world that's based on, you know, actually it's historical, has a lot of historical context. It has a lot of deep roots to Shakespeare. But think about how much things haven't changed.
History is a loop.
You said it.
History is a
History
loop.
is a loop.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Why must the Southern California community come to see Rule My World?
Well, that's very easy, because it's good. That's why. No, I mean, really, what has to happen here is, you know, we have to support arts. We have to support projects like this. This is an important piece. This is an important piece for many reasons, and not only here in Southern California you're not just coming to support and paying your money so you can no. This is not. You're going to be entertained on top of everything. Okay, you're going to be entertained. You're going to get wild singing. You're going to get an amazing story. You're going to go through. Man, the ride is going to be unbelievable. And if there was any place that it needed to be to start, it's Southern California, because we know where it needs to go. But just right now,
its roots are here.
Its roots are here, and it should be home. Start at home.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
Hey, you know,
I appreciate that.
in.
You're on my press, John. Anything? You got any more questions? I think that's. Did we miss anything?
No, I think that's it.
I'm closing us up.
Close it.
Okay, so from the Rule My World team and Stage Explorations, please mark your calendar for Rule My World coming to you. Thank you so much for walking, and we will see you at the theater. Bye.